guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Today's story, I actually came across an Evie article, which if many of you guys don't know, it's kind of a conservative blog. It's women that write this, but they're all married and they're having kids. And so they kind of come from things from a conservative bent, but they do have guest writers and other single women that write for them. And so we're going to talk about women treating dating like gambling. And for the longest time, you know, I try to put this together like why, you know, we talk about women chasing the bad boys, but a lot of times they seem to get bad boys, and we always assume it's the bad boys dumping them. But to be honest, it sounds like a lot of women get the bad boy, he ends up liking her, and she ends up cheating and bailing anyway, and they're treating it kind of like gambling. So this was the article that I came across from Evie, and it says why we want the guys we can't have. And they gave a lot of links to other stories, and this is kind of the same old, like, oh, you know, I want this guy and I want that guy, and we get an emotional hit from it, and we're chasing the butterflies and all the other stuff we talk about. But then they had a link here that said, when I discovered he liked me back, it didn't take long for me to lose feelings. Well, that's not getting dumped by the bad boy. That's her losing feelings once she kind of scored the guy. And that led me to this article from last year, why we stop liking a guy the second he returns interest. And again, it kind of goes into, they say here, having a crush on someone's almost like a drug. Makes you giddy and nutty and warm. Makes you nutty? Oh, like nutty crazy. Okay. For a second, I was like, wait a minute. Warm and fuzzy, nervous and eager. It's almost an addictive feeling. And then they go on to say that, well, it's a thrill of a chase, and once we get him, it doesn't do any good. And then here was the other story I had, Confessions of a Former Serial Dater, and it's kind of the same thing. The psychological reasons why we want what we can't have, and why we chase someone who pulls away. And so I kind of looked into this a little bit further, and I came across this article from Psychology Today, not saying that they're, you know, like the end-all be-all as far as everything, but they do seem to have a pretty good grasp on this, and it turns out women will chase the butterflies, and once they catch the guy, even if he is the bad boy, once they've got him, he's not so exciting anymore. Why? Because he's been obtained. And a lot of times people will say that about guys that are players too, that you know, they just go out there and they enjoy the chase, and once they get a woman, they're done with her. But that's a little bit different in the fact that guys do it because they want to get laid, and they want to, you know, sample a bunch of different women. And you could even say maybe it's an addiction. For some, it probably is. But many cases, it's that guys have emotional issues and they can't attach to a woman, that they get insecure and have other issues with it. But for women, it should be that once they get the great guy, they're done. But they're not. And it turns out they kind of have almost a gambling addiction. And instead of pulling an arm on a slot machine, what they're doing is they're swiping away on Tinder. And I'm going to, or other dating apps. I'm going to read through this, and you'll see kind of what's rattling around in my brain, and maybe let me know what you think about this. They say, do you ever wonder how people can get so addicted to gambling that they despite the odds, they keep going long after they have surpassed their limits? They're looking for their next hit. They have gotten hits in smaller amounts, which motivates them to come back for more and secure a big win, a phenomenon known as intermittent reinforcement. Similarly, with an unavailable partner, you don't know when the next hit will be, and you're looking to score the jackpot. In this relational dynamic, the highs are high and the lows are low. The person may run hot and cold, so you don't know when they will become affectionate or pursue you, but when they do, it feels special and exciting. This intermittent reinforcement can leave you yearning for crumbs of a connection and give the illusion that someday it will lead to an entire meal, but instead you often end up hungry and dissatisfied. Now, what they're talking about in this kind of context is they're talking about when you're with a narcissist, when you're with somebody that treats you poorly, but then they treat you great and then bad and then great and then bad. And a lot of time, and I've been in relationships like this without knowing what it was, and I ended up hanging in the relationship longer than I could have, because even though the bads were bad, the goods were really good. And you say to yourself, man, I'm just going to wait around until the goods, like, maybe they're always going through something, or they have excuses of why they're treating you poorly. But then when they treat you great, it's great. And so you hang around too long. But something else that's happening, I think, is that as women swipe on these dating apps and they're swiping on the 9s and the 10s, even if they're a 6 or a 7, a lot of times guys will just swipe on it. They go, yeah, I'd bang her. I'd bang her. Nope, I'd bang her. I'd bang her. And they're looking at it through a lens of sexuality, not through a lens of actually making a real connection. Women are doing the same thing, but the difference is that guys will usually date equal or up, and they sleep down. So the guy's not doing this necessarily for a rush in the traditional sense. He's doing it for, hey, I get some strange, I get something new, and again, that can be its whole addictive thing on its own. But what women are doing is they're doing the same thing, and they get that emotional rush and that hit when they match up with a better man, as it were. And then when you get the flirting and the texting and the talking, that's a rush. And then when they meet up with him, that's a rush. And then when they sleep together, that's a rush. I'm wondering, now I know for a fact that a lot of times the players will do that. They have their fun, they move on, and then these girls are looking for the next best thing. But what I'm wondering is if women are treating it like gambling, to where they actually get with a guy. The guy's like, you know what? I mean, yeah, she's not as pretty as a lot of the other girls I've dated, but I still want to sleep with her. And she's really cool, and I like hanging out with her. And so he starts dating her, and then she starts seeing other flaws, in what she considers flaws in his personality. And she says, oh, maybe he's not that good. As a matter of fact, I'll jump back. Let me jump back to this other article, because when they say here, come to find out this had been a pattern for me. My friend was spot on. I'd be interested in a guy. And then when I discovered he'd like me back, it didn't take me long to lose feelings for him. And based on the conversations I've had with girlfriends, this sadly just isn't a me problem. It even seems perpetuated in pop culture, which is known for pushing bad relationships, or toxic relationships, they say. So what's so appealing about what we can't have? And they even say here, we get a hit from it. But the other one is in this article, and I'm not going to read all of these, but I'm just kind of give you an idea of where my head's spinning here. Why we stop liking guy the second he returns interest. And they go into it here about all the feelings, the excitement, the rush, the everything. So I'm wondering, are these women getting the guy that's maybe a little bit better than him? And yes, I'm sure she's comparing him to every other guy that she's also been with. And is the gambling rush you know what, he is a good guy, I do like him, but now I'm addicted to the rush of looking for somebody else, maybe getting somebody else. The cheating gives me a rush. The secrecy, the sneaking around, all these things we hear are happening more and more by women. And I think they're almost addicted to that emotional push and pull and the excitement of the chase, to the point where it's almost like a gambling addiction. They say here, if you find yourself in such a dynamic, your friends or family, and even you yourself may be wondering why you can't end it. It's not, and they're talking about ending the relationship. I'm talking in my case here about ending the endless cycle of swiping and trying to find Mr. Perfect. It's not that simple. Just as gambling habit that is not simple as just stopping it. If you're repeatedly drawn to unavailable partners, it is often less about that person, more about the emotional triggers they activate in you. Pay attention to old wounds, and pay attention to which old wounds this person is stirring up for you and what insecurities they may be tapping into. And then take some time to reflect about why it's a consistent and emotionally available partner consistent and emotionally available partner would feel boring or unfamiliar in comparison. And now, if we think about this today, what do we know is happening with the vast majority of young people growing up today? They're in fatherless homes. They're being raised by single moms. There is a missing male, an always unavailable male, a detached guy starting with their father. And we've for years in the manosphere talk about, daddy issues. She's got daddy issues. What does that mean? It means she's kind of emotionally messed up. But young women today, doing the OF and trying to find male connection in clients so they can make money. Younger women dating older gentlemen sometimes. Women getting into the sugar market, that sometimes. Women trying to chase after always unavailable men. And they're always unavailable because they're out of their league, but they feel good because, they're the chase and the excitement of being with a guy that they probably shouldn't be lucky enough to be with. And then when he leaves, that's kind of what they're used to. They're used to being kind of ditched by a male figure. Either that, or once he's actually been obtained, they don't perceive him as high value. And I don't remember where it was, but there was something in here on one of these other articles, and they were even talking about this, where she was saying, you know what, once I've gotten him, once I realize that he's willing to be with me, he's not high value anymore. Because high value men are busy, they have activities, they have the attention of other women, they have other things going on in their lives, and that's a high value man. But if I can get him, then maybe he's not that high value because I have low self-esteem as the woman might. So if she has low self-esteem and she can get a guy, then she automatically assumes, well, he must not have very high value as well. It's kind of crazy, but a lot of this does kind of, tie together. I haven't really gone way down the rabbit hole, like looking at studies and things like this, but it kind of makes sense that women want unavailable men because they're unavailable, and that unavailability and unobtainability makes them high value. And when the guy will sleep with them and be with them and maybe date them, I think a lot of these women are saying he must not be that high value if he'll take me. Why are we hearing so much more about women would rather split a winner than have a quote unquote loser to herself? In other words, if she's a 7, why would she split a 10 or a 9 with 3 other women rather than having another 7 all to herself? Well, number one, she thinks she deserves better. But number two, there's always that danger he may choose another woman over her. And so she must constantly try to validate herself to him. It works great for the guy. It doesn't work great for the women. But again, it's that gambling. It's that chasing after the unobtainable. They say some people are more susceptible to being drawn to such partners depending on their attachment style and family upbringing. That's the big one right there, family upbringing. Adults who are raised with an inconsistent or unavailable caregiver, like a single mom, or whose emotional needs were not met during a crucial stage of development, are more likely to be drawn like a magnet to the same push-pull dynamic as an adult. It's not uncommon for those with this early experience to be drawn to a partner with similar qualities simply because it feels familiar. The feeling that you've known this person forever may just be due to this person activating your attachment wounds from childhood. I think, and they go through here, and it's how do you know you're attached to somebody that's uncaring and unloving, and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just kind of dabbling in on this idea, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this from you guys, because I've tried to look for some studies, and they don't seem to have too many. I mean, they do talk about serial dating and other things, but most of the time they try to put that on the guys. And maybe that's because traditionally it was men that feared commitment. Men wanted to have sex with as many women as they could, but they didn't want to get married, and they wanted to stay a bachelor and play the field. But it was always the women that wanted to tie a guy down. And now it seems that women don't want to tie a guy down. That maybe everything they're hearing in social media and the news and movies and everything else about men are worthless and men aren't worth keeping around. Maybe that's starting to take hold. But women's natural instincts are that they want a man, and then they say, well, but I'm told I don't need a man, and I don't really need a man. I'm a strong, bad bitch, right? And so they say, well, I don't need a man. And I think the two are arguing with each other. And so what women do is they chase after men because they want men, and the minute they actually can capture the man and have the man, she decides, you know what, he's not perfect, or he snores in his sleep, or he's 20 pounds heavier than I'd like, or whatever. He doesn't make quite as much money as I want. And they go back to gambling again. That, or they hook up with a guy way out of their range. He ends up moving on, just uses them for a month. But the woman says, I almost had him. Like, he was with me for a month. Maybe if I just did X, Y, Z different, and maybe if I did these other things, maybe I can hold on to that guy. And so she keeps gambling. She keeps going out there and searching. And then I think at that point, they're so addicted to the rush and the fun and the excitement of swiping and the new connections and everything, that when they finally do even get a high-value man, they keep looking, because once she's had him for a while, The excitement's gone. The rush is gone. And she wants that rush again. And so she either ends up cheating and being sneaky behind a guy's back or just ditching him and going to look for another guy. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. It's kind of a different thought process, but I like talking these out in front of you guys and getting your opinions on this stuff. And it does make for an interesting debate. I'd like to hear what you guys say. Don't forget tomorrow night, this is Friday that I'm putting this live. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing movies over on the betterbachelor.locals.com. A lot of people said, oh, you can't be streaming movies. Look, I talk over 90% of it. I blab and we joke and I read live chats and it's since there's only, I think, 150 guys over there, it allows me to get to know you guys better that are over there, and you guys can get to know me a little bit better because it's not just cranking out a video and off we go. And it's a really great community over there. So I hope you join us over there today. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But let me know what you guys think down below, and we'll see you next time.